Hello everyone. I'm filming today from house sit number 9 in Mexico City, Mexico. But today we're going to look back at our drive on the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, which is the skinniest part of Mexico. It allowed us to see two oceans in one day, just a few hours apart. We found ourselves in the rare instance where we had about a week between the time when house sit number 8 ended in San Andrés Huayapam, Oaxaca, and the time that we needed to be up here in Mexico City for this house sit. So we threw around a couple ideas of what we wanted to do with that time in between, how far we could go, what we could see while making our way towards Mexico City. And as soon as Evan suggested driving the Isthmus of Tehuantepec and seeing two oceans in one day, that was it. I definitely wanted to do that. Wasn't sure what the two cities at either end would be like or what the drive would be like, but we looked it up and decided that that was how we wanted to spend our time between house sits. Let's jump over to the maps and I'll give you a better idea of what this drive looks like. Okay, so here we are looking at the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. Again, it's the skinniest part of Mexico, or as Evan called it, North America's waist. We drove from Salina Cruz, Oaxaca, which is down there on the southern side. That is on the Pacific Ocean. And we drove north to Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz, which is on the Gulf of Mexico, which is connected to the Atlantic Ocean. It says here that the drive should take just over 5 hours. It did take us longer than that because we were just having a scenic drive, taking our time, and we made a few stops along the way. So for some perspective, I've zoomed out here on the map so you can see where the Isthmus of Tehuantepec is located in Mexico. I still have the route on the map down there so you can see the route we took from Salina Cruz to Coatzacoalcos. And switching to the satellite view so you can get an idea of the climate, this was the most jungly part of Mexico that we had been in that had a distance to it. So what I mean by that is that this route is mostly flat. The whole distance, it was a really flat drive, and almost the entire way was very tropical, as opposed to the other parts of Mexico that we've been in that had jungle. Those areas were all dry on the inland, and then there's the mountainous, there's the mountain range that goes along the west coast. So it's mountain, and then it goes directly into the jungle and then the ocean. So this was different in that the whole route, the whole drive was quite tropical. And zooming in here with the satellite view, it should be easy for you to see the difference in climate from the city of Oaxaca and the Oaxacan coastline down here. So the day before we drove the Isthmus, we stayed one night in Salina Cruz, and it was a fairly short drive from Oaxaca City. It was only a few hours, but the climate changed dramatically. So Oaxaca is there in the valley surrounded by the Sierra Madre mountain range, and the drive down to Salina Cruz took us up and over the mountain range, and then we dropped immediately down into a tropical landscape. Another interesting note is that both of these cities are fairly major port cities. So this area was actually considered for what eventually became the Panama Canal, although they weren't planning to dig a canal on the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. They were planning to build a massive rail system that would actually put the ships on rails and take them from one side of the isthmus to the other. Possibly because of this, when we get to the driving portion of the video, you'll notice that there's a lot of truck traffic for it being most of the way just a two-lane highway. And I believe that's probably because this is the only highway between these two fairly major ports. If you look at the map here, you can see that the other highway going south goes pretty far to the east over into Chiapas. And then the only other way south to the west is up through the mountains and into Oaxaca. So this really is the quickest and flattest and easiest route from one side of the isthmus to the other. So I'm going to guess because of that is why there's a fair amount of large trucks on the small two-lane highway. And while we really enjoyed this drive, it was a pleasant drive and just fun to see two oceans in one day and have that experience. I will say nicely that the two cities being port cities, they really felt industrial. They definitely had the port town, port city feel. So they're not necessarily places, the cities themselves, Salina Cruz and Coatzacoalcos, that we have a big, desire to go see again. However, driving the Isthmus of Tehuantepec from the Pacific Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico or the other way was a fun experience. So I do recommend it if you have the opportunity to see two oceans in one day. So moving right ahead, the rest of this video is going to be 5 photos from Salina Cruz, Oaxaca, Mexico, looking at the Pacific Ocean, followed by about 15 minutes of dash cam footage. I didn't include the whole route driving the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, but I just picked some interesting little segments showing the entire route and sped it up at 4 times speed. And that will be followed by 5 photos of once we arrived at Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz, Mexico, and looking at the Gulf of Mexico, which is part of the Atlantic Ocean. One last note before we jump into the photos, I just want to let you know that I took these photos with my pay per shoot camera. This is not an ad. I'm in no way affiliated or sponsored by pay per shoot, although I would be interested in that. But I didn't feel like lugging out my big DSLR professional camera for these shots, and I really enjoy using the pay per shoot. So the 5 photos in Salina Cruz looking at the Pacific Ocean and the 5 photos in Coatzacoalcos looking at the Gulf of Mexico were taken with my pay per shoot. This is just, it's literally a paper case with a circuit board inside. You can see the memory card right there, and it's run by 2 AA batteries. You close it up, screw it together with the little brass knobs, and it does have some optional magnetic lenses that you can put on the front. This is the wide-angle lens I've been using while we're here in Mexico City. However, the photos in this video were just taken with the built-in lens, where you look right through the hole in the paper case there to take your photos. And of course, there's no screen on the back. It's just like the old wind-up cameras where you aren't certain if your photos turned out until you get home to develop them. So I just wanted to let you know this is the camera that I used to take these photos.